I'm 68 and I want to talk about something most men our age are dealing with, but almost nobody discusses openly: low testosterone. Not the dramatic version you see in advertisements, the quiet version, the gradual loss of energy, strength, and drive that most of us just accept as aging. I accepted it for years. Then I learned 5 specific things that changed those levels naturally, and the speed at which my body responded surprised me more than anything. I'm William Harrison. I'm 68 years old, and I want to be honest about what low testosterone actually felt like before I understood what was happening. It wasn't a dramatic crash, it was a slow dimming. I would finish a day and feel like I had been running at 70% of what I used to be. My workouts produced less. My recovery took longer. My mood was flatter, not depressed exactly, but not fully switched on either. I put it all down to age. My doctor mentioned nothing. No one around me talked about it. And so I carried that dimmer version of myself for years, quietly assuming this was just what getting older felt like. What I eventually discovered is that testosterone affects far more than most men realize. Muscle maintenance, fat metabolism, mood, energy, insulin sensitivity, bone density, mental clarity. It is not just a sexual hormone, it is a foundational one. And when it drops, the effects are systemic and gradual enough that most men never connect the dots. I didn't. Not until I started learning about what drives those levels and what genuinely moves them. Before I share what I discovered, I want to ask you something. Have you noticed a gradual shift in how you feel? Less energy, slower recovery, a body that doesn't respond the way it used to? And simply accepted it as the price of getting older? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one this week. And if this is already resonating, please like this video and subscribe. I make these specifically for men our age, and I don't want you to miss what's coming. The first thing I discovered is the relationship between fasting and testosterone. When I stopped eating from early morning until noon, simply compressing my eating window rather than changing what I ate, something shifted in how I felt within the first week. The research behind this is compelling. When the body is not in a constant state of processing food, particularly when paired with physical training, the hormonal environment shifts in a direction that supports testosterone production. The liver, which plays a central role in hormone balance, gets the rest it needs. This wasn't something I expected to matter. It turned out to matter enormously. The second thing was training with genuine intensity. Not more exercise, different exercise. I had been doing moderate, steady-state activity for years, thinking consistency was enough. What I learned is that the hormonal response to training is largely driven by intensity, not duration. When I started lifting heavier and pushing through genuinely challenging sets rather than comfortable ones, something changed. The body produces testosterone in response to the demand placed on it. Consistent, moderate demand produces a modest response. Genuine intensity produces a significant one. This was a fundamental shift in how I understood physical training at our age. The third discovery was about fat, specifically that I had been avoiding the wrong things. For years, I had followed the standard advice to reduce fat intake, particularly saturated fat. What I learned is that healthy dietary fat is one of the primary raw materials for testosterone production. The body synthesizes testosterone from cholesterol, which comes from dietary fat. Men who eat diets very low in fat consistently show lower testosterone levels than those who include adequate healthy fat. Coconut oil, avocado, olive oil, nuts, salmon, eggs, these are not indulgences. For a man trying to maintain healthy testosterone levels, they are fundamentals. When I stopped treating fat as the enemy and started treating it as a tool, the effect on how I felt was noticeable within weeks. The fourth thing I learned surprised me the most: the connection between emotional state and testosterone. I had always assumed hormones were purely physical. What the research actually shows is that chronic negative emotional states, particularly resentment, unresolved anger, and long-held frustration, have a measurable suppressive effect on testosterone. The liver, which processes both hormones and the biochemical byproducts of stress, is directly implicated. When I started taking my emotional health as seriously as my physical health, working through old resentments I had been carrying for years, deliberately managing my stress response, Something shifted that I couldn't entirely explain through diet or exercise alone. I am not suggesting this is simple work. It wasn't. But it was real work with real effects. The fifth discovery was about specific nutrients, particularly vitamin D. I had my levels tested and found them well below optimal. What I didn't realize is that vitamin D functions more like a hormone than a vitamin in the body, and that its relationship to testosterone is direct and well established. Men with low vitamin D consistently show lower testosterone. Getting my levels up, through daily sun exposure when possible and supplementation when not, was one of the simplest and most impactful changes I made. Ginseng, which I added to my routine around the same time, has a long history of supporting healthy testosterone levels, and I found it complemented the other changes well. What I want you to take from this is not a list of things to do. It is a shift in how to understand what is happening. Low testosterone in men our age is not inevitable. It is not simply aging. It is a hormonal environment that is being shaped by how we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we manage stress, and what we put into our bodies. I spent years accepting a dimmer version of myself because I didn't know those levers existed. When I found them and started using them, the version of me that came back wasn't the version I had at 40, but it was a version I recognized, capable, present, switched on. That is what I want for you. If this video helped you understand what might be driving how you feel, please subscribe for more strategies that actually work for men our age. I'm William Harrison. Thanks for watching.